All right. All right. Let's go with 6:35. I'll call the meeting to order. All those present, Tom here, Keith,
Here.
Sherry,
Here.
Donnie,
Here.
Rick.
Here.
All right. Is that about all I have to do, Michael, for the roll call to start?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
There you go. That's the shadow. Okay, so we're gonna go over the some of the ones that we passed over. So actually, why don't we start with actually with Greg? Seeing that it'd be so nice of us, nice to join. Greg, I know I forwarded on just a few questions for you. Do you have any help with that?
So the first question was, when the planning board was reviewing the potential locations to meet the MCMOD requirements set forth by the Commonwealth, did they do an analysis on the economic impact of the locations chosen in terms of potential additional tax revenue netted against the annual recurring expenses impacts, i.e. education, emergency services, utility infrastructure, that could be realized by the town if those net impacts are expected to be positive or negative? The simple answer is no. This is not a 40R where the state was looking for people to increase density. And then what they did was they checked on the growth in that district as well. And if the student expenses were more expensive than what the businesses were pulling in, the state would help subsidize you with what they were calling 40S. This is not the case. They were very prescriptive in what they wanted us to do with the location analysis in excluded areas, sensitive areas, etc. They gave us mapping programs to follow. They had a spreadsheet and stuff they had to follow. The economic analysis was not done. That being said, we did an overlay area. We had three options: overlay district, brand new district, or change the B2 and allow all the multifamily stuff into the B2 mix as well. We went with the overlay, which would allow the business owners or the property owners to, if they want to stay, like Quirk, stay selling Jeeps, they can sell Jeeps. If they want to expand, they could expand. There would not be a grandfathered use or something that they would have to worry about, doing additional things. So the B2 is the underlying district. Those uses are still allowed. So that's the answer to that first question. Is there a additional or follow-up question to that first question?
I guess just one thing I want to make sure that I'm clear on is, so there could be, we're not sure, could be ancillary economic effects as a result of placing it here or anywhere, by the way, in the town, right?
Yep.
That we're unaware of, and the reason why we didn't look at them is because the state said, you're doing it, it doesn't really matter what the economic impact is, you're doing it anyway, so just move on with it and get it done.
Well, follow their requirements and their guidelines, yes.
Okay.
The second question was, I've read that some towns' sewage and water costs to a new development would be huge. Do we have the infrastructure in place at our designated location? And would that not require additional funding? So we have water in that area. We do not have sewer in that area, but the state made it clear in their requirements and their guidelines that the sewering or the packaged treatment plants that would be required for these type of things are the onus of the developer because of the density bonus. So the way the state wrote it was they want a minimum of 15 units per acre, a minimum, that's all they say. The bylaw that we have prepared caps it at 16 units per acre. That's one of the things that we did a little different than what the state did. The state was looking for up to 6 floors. We capped it at 4 floors. I did not think 6 floors were gonna fly in this town. They really didn't care about a minimum lot area. We put in 30,000. And we used the current setbacks for the B2. When it abuts a residential land like it does in the backside over by School Street, we added 10 feet to the buffer. So instead of 30 feet to the rear, we made it 40. When it's up against another development that is going to make multifamily housing, that setback reduces to 16 or 15 feet, sorry. So when it's gonna be abutting another one of those developments, we did not require as much of the setback. Those are some of the changes on that one. In addition, the state, as part of their, under option B, is all the grants that they were gonna withhold. A lot of those grants are infrastructure grants for water, sewer lines, et cetera, that type of stuff. In our case, I was gonna basically leave it as the sewer or special treatment wastewater treatment plant. That's on the developer as part of their proposal. Any follow-up questions on that one?
Yeah, you know, what I saw, what I read, right, was that it was some of these towns, the sewerage cost was going to be dramatic, and that the amount of money that the Attorney General had was $6 million for 177 communities. Not sure if that number's correct, but that's obviously nothing. So
It's a limited pot, yes.
is the pot 6 million for 177 communities? For
I
help?
don't know the exact, we have not been told, maybe Michael has heard some numbers, but I have not heard any numbers of what their availability is for, say, sewerage extensions.
No, I didn't hear anything either, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Okay. I guess. That
Can
was
I
it for that
stop,
question.
Tom?
Well, go ahead, Sherry. Go ahead.
Two-
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but isn't the onus of the sewage connection on the developer?
I don't think they would extend the sewer. I think they'll put in a package treatment plant, similar to what Proprietors Green did, Modera 1 did, Modera 2 will do. And I'm blanking on, there's another development that has a package treatment plant in it. Another thing on our bylaws is because it's in the Water Resource Protection District, we kept the requirements for the 5 parts per million, which on our side is a little stricter, but because it's on our aquifer, I felt that that was justified. The third question was, based on the legal review by town council, and there are other demands that could be made by the Attorney General, i.e. who can live there, who is given first priority, additional acreage in the future. Sadly, I can't tell you what they could change the requirements in the future to be. We don't know. We are basically dealing with the changes that they had first promulgated under guidelines. They have made several changes to those guidelines. One of them was in the favor of the communities, where right away Marshfield and a number of communities wrote and said, hey, you're expecting to put all these by right units in. You need to at least allow us to have 10% of the units be counted towards the affordability requirements under Chapter 40B. The state did make that change. So at least we're not hurting ourselves even more if we are moving forward on the MBTA communities bylaw. I was just gonna tell you a couple other high points. I may have mentioned some of them. First, this is what does this article allow that we're going to town meeting with? It is a zoning change to set a by right process for an applicant to make multifamily buildings at a maximum density of 16 units per acre in an overlay district, as I mentioned before. It allows multiple buildings on a single lot. The applicant under this change would file a site plan review with the planning board. This site plan review is different than the site plan review that already exists in the bylaw. The applicant cannot be denied they can be conditioned by the board to address some concerns. Other local boards are given 30 days for referral for comments. There is a short time frame for a decision, 4 months, which is actually 2 months shorter than what the state was looking for. There is no public hearing. This would be listed on the planning board agendas as an item, action item, not a public hearing. And that's the way the state has set it up. This is not to be public hearings, et cetera, because they don't want people under the misunderstanding of this could be denied. This is different than a special permit type of thing.
Wait, did you say the applicant can't be denied? Is that?
Yes. So we could say you need more parking, or you need more buffering, or you need to move the building this way or that way, that type of thing. We cannot deny this.
So if there was any opposition from the community under any other grounds that weren't in opposition to Marshfield bylaws or in otherwise, violated the law, then, too bad, so sad, still got to do it.
Yes.
Well, Greg,
Wow.
what happens at the town meeting if they vote this down?
Well, the first thing that would happen is there's, I think, 17 grants that the state would not allow Marshfield to have. One of those grants is the MVP grant, which we have gotten twice. And I know that the Conservation Commission is interested in hopefully getting some funds from MVP towards the Veterans Park Dam removal project in the future. So that's the first and foremost thing that the state would do. That's what's in their law. And their guidelines sets up those grants. Michael might have heard some other things, but we have not gotten anything in further than that in writing, other than that we've seen that the Attorney General has taken Milton to task and has sued. I'll turn it over to Michael now.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add to Greg's great presentation, the Attorney General will take action against any community that votes no. They're putting a lot of pressure on cities and towns to do this. It's not about building, it's about approving the zoning area where these potential development can be built. Some of the other money that they've talked about and they've mentioned, especially with Milton, you don't think of them doing dredging, but dredging money, harbor improvement monies, any waterway improvement grants, things like that. Mike the mayor, we probably go after a few $1 million a year. So at a minimum, that would be a couple of $1 million hit every year.
It'll be a couple $1 million hit, but then in addition to that, you'd have all the legal fees associated with
Fighting
Going
the
in-
case with that's correct.
fighting Beacon Hill. Okay.
You're right, Rick. Yep.
Do you have
But sort of, go ahead, Sherry.
Mike, do you have an idea as to what some of the other grants are? Do they affect the schools? Do they affect safety?
Yeah, we haven't, it's funny, I talked to the superintendent today because I had the department head meeting, Sherry. And they made reference, there was something in the paper about some money for the schools, but it didn't specify. It was
Okay.
just very broad terms. There was, they're looking at everything. They want to be heavy-handed to force the communities to adopt this. When this first came out, and Greg's much more of an expert than I am, it didn't even talk about affordability. The governor's idea with this is if you flooded the market with all of these units, you would lower the price and the barrier to people to get an apartment, because instead of paying $35,000 or $4,000 a month, you might get something for like $2,000 or less.
Right.
So the state is looking for Marshfield to zone for 1,185 units. And they need a minimum of 50 acres. Ours, we were in the range of 77. We actually, with the zoning proposal that we've submitted, it's 84 acres and it would allow up to 1,276 units. What's good about that is some of the feedback that we've already heard from the state to the other towns like Pembroke was, you didn't zone enough area, you're just squeaking by, et cetera. So we were a little excess on the number of units and we're a little excess on our area. The area is because we put in requirements for setbacks, for parking, for lot coverage, et cetera. And when you add those type of restrictions, you've got to have more land or higher buildings. Now, we made the decision to go with the 4th stories instead of the 6 stories, and that was one of the major changes that we kind of did with the guidelines that the state had put out.
Some of the research I did, I guess it was section 18 of this bill, which sort of takes it away from the town and puts it into the hands of state government. And I know that, I mean, heavy-handed, Michael used that word, that seems to be the, the only sort of phrase you can go with here. But I hate to think that we're going to, vote on this just because, it's, I mean, it's almost like extortion that we, okay, we have 17 grants. Would you hate to see something happen to those? And then they move the goalposts down the road and say, no, okay, yeah, okay, you're building that, and now here's who's going to live there, or there's actually rules on that. Do we know exactly you build that, and is that it? Like, is there any other language, deep inside, page 327 that says, oh, you forgot about this one over here?
No, it's just stresses that it has to be family friendly. That's what they're stressing, which means there's got to be 3-bedroom mixes in there. And on our side, I added language about playgrounds, et cetera, to make sure that there was some open space available for the family-friendly housing that we're supposed to be producing. I also put in a clause that they had to contribute towards the GATRA, because one of the state guidelines is they want it on a transit route. GATRA is our only transit that we have available. Right. So I focused on that, and I put it as they need to either give us financial assistance, build bus stops, or because right now the GATRA bus stops in the right lane of 139 when it picks up and discharges passengers. So what I had asked for is that they make a pull-in with a shelter to get the buses off of 139 when they stop. The other thing that I wrote was that, or they could use the financial assistance towards funding a second GATRA route that would go directly to Greenbush. Since we do not have transit to Greenbush, and that's why we are listed as an adjacent community, we don't have sidewalks, we don't have bike trails, we don't have a way for the public to get there other than driving their car. And then the final thing on our changes is the fee in lieu amount that the state was using was $400,000. On our version, I bumped it up to $450,000. Now, in the future, the select board may vote to increase that depending on market conditions, et cetera. So that's kind of where we differ from the state. Those are some of the things that we differ in from what they came out with as part of their guidelines.
So when you said you're writing to somebody trying to get these answers back, obviously it's not the Attorney General. Is there someone that is your go-to person inside there that has a good pulse on what's going on and where this thing is headed?
Is that for me or Michael? Sorry.
That was for you, Greg.
Oh, no, we have submitted and we have heard from the Attorney General. The bylaw that we have prepared has no defects in the language. The one thing that they were nervous about was my clause that they needed to provide some money towards GATRA to give us some, better transit connections. Again, I kind of find that if that's what the state wants to fight us with, then frankly, shame on them.
I think that's something, Mr. Chairman, we should be fighting them with, and I think Greg was great to put that in there. I mean, that's the whole impetus of this whole thing, the MBTA. Situate's a prime example. They took that other parking lot across from Greenbush, and they used one of those 40 Qs, Rs, or S's to put that development there. They want cities and towns to do this and to do these types of development where there's transportation, and they want it for families. So it only makes sense that they provide funding so that we can have GATRA take people from 139 to Greenbush.
Gotcha. Great. Thanks. Yeah, it's, I guess I wish, I know that we wanted to get ahead in April just to see what the vote was, just in case we had something to do to try to get it on October, if that's what the town decided, the townspeople decided. It would have been nice to sort of have a scorecard, like Milton is just, you know, a statistical flyer right now, or maybe not. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what other towns do, but because, I mean, this is April sort of town meeting month, we don't have a lot of, you know, checks in one box and a check in another box to see what other towns are thinking, whether they're thinking about fighting this. I mean, because I think this article is going to take a long time at town meeting, right? Because it's going to be people on either side of the issue. It's I mean, it just doesn't make you feel good that they're, you know, that how heavy, you know, again, use the phrase heavy-handed it seems to be, and certainly, you know, looking at what they've done to Milton just doesn't make you feel all sort of warm and fuzzy. Like this is a great, you know, a great act that you know, that was signed in by Charlie Baker, and now these folks have taken it and run with it. But I mean, I appreciate all the work that Greg has done. I mean, he's, you know, answered all our questions. I appreciate that. I know we only have 5 here. We can try to vote this tonight, or we can. I'm not sure what people are. But yeah,
I'm
yeah.
on. This is Mark Ford. I'm on the line listening in.
Oh, okay.
So just so you had me counted as for the quorum.
Yeah. We're all set. Okay, Mark, say here. Mark Ford. Here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, there you go. Not exactly sure if that's the way it works, but that's the way it works for me today. Do you have any questions for Greg, Mark?
No, he's answered all my questions. I spoke with him quite a while the other day, and I share a lot of the sentiments, but ultimately I think he and Karen have done a good job with the hand dealt. And, you know, I support the article, and I think a lot of these things we're talking about, including the economic impact, is stuff that we should document and have our representatives lobby for support going forward.
Right. I mean, our town rep, you know, I mean, excuse me, state rep, state senator. I mean, are they going to be making the rounds at town meetings, or are they just going to not show up at these things because of the political fallout? Any idea, Michael?
Well, you know, it's interesting you should raise that point, Mr. Chairman. If the legislature wanted to put the brakes on the executive government, the legislature could in fact halt or amend this legislation. But right now they're taking no action, which sends out a subliminal message that they support it. Remember, the legislature is driven by city-centric reps and state senators, and they have a lot of housing in the cities. And that's what 40B came out of in 1969, was to force affordable housing in the suburbs. You know, this is similar to that. There wasn't affordability in the beginning, but, you know, there doesn't seem to be in the future. I don't see any legislation coming out to put the brakes on this or modify it. I think they want to see what cities and towns are doing. The Attorney General is lockstep with the governor and lieutenant governor on this. So they're forcing our hand. You know, as you said, no one likes this. I mean, we can vote it. Hey, if, you know, between now and October, Milton goes to court and the Supreme Court of Massachusetts says, you know, the governor can't force this, then, you know, I'm sure we'll have something on the special town meeting to rescind if there's a positive vote.
Yeah.
We can do that? We can do that, Mike?
Anyone at town meeting can file an article if, you know, you only would do that if the Supreme Court
Right.
said, you know, it's unconstitutional to force cities and towns. I mean, we're already complying with 40B. We let 40B, but, you know, we are forced. There is a gun to our head to do this because, you know, the potential to lose too much. You know, what if they say, you know, I mean, I don't want to say this, but, you know, they're going to go after maybe school money and make it harder with some of the school money. I don't know what other kinds of things they could do. When it started out, it was just 3, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, you're much more of an expert. Started off with those three grants that were innocuous to it. I mean, basically worth barely $100,000. And now it's millions because they get into dredge and water improvements and harbor plans and things like that.
Tom,
And
Tom, one final thing on my side was
Yeah.
that part of the reason that I had recommended to Michael that we put it on the April is my gut feeling is it's going to be a close vote. And I wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity for a second try if it does not pass.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, probably good thinking, or if something would change in the interim, right?
And on the state side, the one thing to keep in mind is if we go ahead and pass this, somebody files one, the Milton case comes out and shoots it down, we still have to deal with that application because it was filed under an approved zoning article. So that's on the downside, that's the one, just keep in mind.
Gotcha. Thank you. I was just doing a quick search to see what Ron Mariano thinks of the MBTA Communities Act, because obviously everyone's going to just follow what he says. But all right. Well, thank you so much, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
And yeah, Michael, you turned your lights on in your porch or something like that, because now you just,
Yeah, it was the sun. I don't know. The sun was I have the lights on, but it was blocking out the lights when it was setting.
Too funny. Okay. Board, do we want to vote this?
Ugh.
I think we have all the information that we could probably get on this. My full screen is Sherry with her head in her hands.
I feel the way Sherry looks, and but I also agree with Mark. I kind of feel like it's one of those things that as long as the state has the constitutional power to do this, to go and to fight them on this isn't going to make a lot of sense. However, I appreciate what Michael said, that if one of these other towns do go and successfully fight it and whatnot, that I'd be the first person in line to call for for this to be rescinded. The fact that that it is with a gun to our head and we're being forced to do something with limited information, without guarantees of state funding to be provided, and to make up gaps and stuff like that, to me is just kind of deplorable. The fact that the executive branch has that kind of power. But
yeah, the only guarantee it's
a hard one to stomach.
Yeah.
I also think it makes sense to vote. I'm not sure what impact it's going to have on town meeting, but I also think that if town meeting votes it down, it's one thing. If a town board votes it down, that may be a completely different thing from a litigation standpoint.
I agree 100% with Mark. Yeah.
How do you mean,
I'm
Mark?
sorry?
How do you mean? Can you just?
I just think that I don't know that it's relevant per se, but I think it matters in terms of the Attorney General's case against the town. If a town board voted it down versus if town meeting, I just think optically it'll strengthen their case against us.
Understood.
If the town board votes it down, it strengthens the state's case against.
That's my instinct.
And your instinct. Trust. Yeah. It's I don't like this. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't like it at all, and I don't like that they're holding the gun to our head. But I am encouraged to know that in the event that there is some change, right, that we will be able to bring this back to the table for October meeting.
We could. I think if the Supreme Court Massachusetts Supreme Court voted to preserve Milton's right to vote it down, and we vote for it. I mean, Greg said if we vote for it, a developer comes forward, they can vote. But if it changes and cities and towns have the rights to reject it, then I'm sure that our town would want to reject it, because we're already doing enough with 40B.
That's right.
Okay. Sorry, just this would be Article 18, and the Article 19 is just sort of bundles with that. Is that how that works, Mark?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Okay. So do you want to move Article 18, Mark?
Yeah, I move it as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, Keith. Okay. I think we're probably, I think we've all discussioned out probably. All those in favor, I'm gonna go by person. So Tom, I, Keith,
Aye.
Donnie,
Aye.
Sherry,
Grudgingly, aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Rick.
Aye.
Oh, actually.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. That's all we have here, right? All right, great. And then you want to move Article 19 as well, Mark?
I move Article 19 as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Keith? All right, Tom, I, Keith,
Aye.
Donnie,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Okay. All right, great, thanks. Did Greg drop off? Thanks for, if he's still here, thank you. Okay, so let's now go to the special 5, which we passed over. Okay, Michael, you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yes. So Article 5 of the special is to create 3 stabilization funds, one for the opiate settlement funds, one for PFAS settlement funds, and one for marijuana revenue. Commonwealth requires that we have these accounts set up in order to receive the funds. As folks know, we're part of the National Opiate Settlement. We'll be getting funds coming in, and funds are starting to come in, and we need to set up this account. PFAS, we're also involved. PFAS, it was great over the weekend. DEP and the EPA are coming out with very strict guidelines that will reinforce, protecting water resources from PFAS. But we're also part of the PFAS settlement, so we'll be getting monies in to clean if there's any traces of PFAS in our wells, and we'll need to have a place to put that money. And marijuana revenue, we get some of the money from the state on the one marijuana facility that we have now. And, we'll need that account to put those funds into also. And then when we want to use them, the State Attorney General's office has strict guidelines on what the opiate settlement funds can be used on. And then, marijuana funds are pretty open. The selectmen talked about the marijuana funds going into the general fund to help defray the cost of the school resource officers.
Great, thank you. Okay, I move Article 5 as written. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Tom,
Aye.
aye. Keith,
Aye.
Donnie,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Rick.
Aye.
Okay, number 6, I move Article number 6 is written. Michael,
Yes.
any thoughts on that one? So I did talk to Michael earlier. I talked to Phil Tavares. There's a couple of things here. There's some police cars. The special will get them quicker. Then there's also a similar article in the annual, which will be like in July. There's a couple of big numbers. I don't think I asked you, Michael, about number 2, which was the Article 8 fall special town meeting, the 2.4 million.
So that's the actual money. So we have a little discrepancy. We think we're gonna leave, so that's what we borrowed. Item 2 in Article 6 is the 2 million that we borrowed from stabilization. And then Article 3 was putting it back. So we're working right now with the town moderator, with Bob Galvin, Sean Strobel, treasurer, and myself to decide where we want it. We want to make sure if no money was spent, then the money simply just goes back into, might be cleaner just for the money to go right back into stabilization. There was some money that may have been spent that was approved by town meeting. We're just trying to get the money back so that people know it's back there.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I asked Michael a couple of questions, but one was financial consultants during the changeover with the treasurer and accountants. We had a couple of people on the hook for like $30,000 a month. Once Sean gets, that won't be down the road. So it's not something that we accrue $500,000 a year. But obviously the big one was the school summer pay issue. And Michael, if you could just talk about that, please.
Sure. So just, I'm gonna read it, so it's kind of a complicated, convoluted issue. So in FY '22, the school encumbered $3.5 million for summer pay for those teachers who get paid in the summer. In FY '23, the $3.5 million artificially inflated the school budget without showing a vote by town meeting to increase the school budget. The town closed the FY '23 books in January of 2024. Journal entries were not made by the school to reverse the encumbrances. Therefore, it created a budgeted surplus under the DOR standards for free cash. And now, because of that, the town is required to put the $3.5 million back when the town goes through recertification this week. We have to go back to the state to recertify the money now that they notified us of this issue.
Great, thank you. Anybody else have any further discussion on Article 6? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Tom, aye. Keith,
Aye.
Johnny,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Rick.
Aye.
All right, that moves us to Article 11, which was, and I move Article 11 is written. Do I have a second?
Second.
So this was money that was left over from the rug and asbestos removal. Now they're using that for the electric generator and gear, where they're asking to use it for the electric generator and gear project. Michael, do you know if that $113,000 covers that, or is there additional money?
That should cover it. The problem is, believe it or not, we get the generator free. That was the generator that we moved from the old police station. It was only about 8 years old. The problem is the library's electrical system was so old, we had to put a new switching system in. So a whole new piano box, new electrical switches, and that's what the cost is, and running the new wires and putting a pole outside the library that will house the power to run the generator.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion on Article 11? All right, seeing none, those in favor say aye. Tom, aye. Keith,
Aye.
Johnny,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Rick.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we did 18, 19. That goes to special town meeting 20. Dan Greeny's not on here yet, right? Okay.
How about Article 12, Tom? We vote that yet?
Yeah, I have articles, a 6-0 vote. Article
Okay.
12. Yep. And it'd be rare if I ever made a mistake, I think. I mean, I hate laughing. All right. Okay, okay, Article 20. I do not move Article 20 as written. I'm not exactly sure how to say that every time. Do I have a second on that?
You do
Second.
not,
I
Tom?
do not move Article 20 I'm not moving Article 20 as written.
Second.
Second, Keith was second. So this is the area by, I think we all know where it is, right off of in the Harbor Master. I just think that the language, and maybe Mark could probably help us here, but you know, the any and all, I just don't understand what we're trying to do here, and if something like that could preclude us from doing anything with that area. Does anybody else have any discussion on it? Michael, do you know much about this
Yes,
article?
the town council and the moderator ruled these dubious legalities. They're not legal. Legislative branch of government cannot force the executive branch of government to do something. And both Diane, Miss Jordan and Miss Casper have been told that.
Okay. Mark, did you look at this article at all?
I did. Remind me, what's the article again? I don't
So
have it in
this is
front of me.
the dredge spoils area where it says that
Yeah.
the vote to prohibit the fall. I can't believe you actually didn't take a warrant with you on vacation. Very selfish of you. It's voted to prohibit
No,
the following any and all
yeah.
excavation, development,
no.
dumping.
I remember it now. I agree with you. I just don't think the language is is coherent enough to pass, and I would oppose it.
Okay, so any other further discussion on this article? Okay, so all voting aye to defeat Article 20 signify by saying aye. Tom, aye. Keith,
Aye.
Donnie,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Rick.
Aye.
Okay, that closes out the special town meeting. Now we go to the annual town meeting. Article 4 was passed over. And that is various by subcommittee, I think. Okay, I'm going to move Article 4 as written. We have any discussion from the different boards? Was this the DPW when Sean said we've already paid for some of these things? Sherry, you're not, is that correct?
They submitted a new list of articles of the things that they wanted funded. So bear with me 1 second, I have it here. Yeah.
Okay, so should we hold off on voting on this until the night of the town meeting, then when we have all the information in front of us? Because we don't have it then, right?
Sure, I have it as part of the errata sheet, but we can get it to you and you can vote it at your meeting before town meeting.
Yeah, there is a meeting posted 15 minutes before.
And we have a room for you. That's
With
correct.
that,
We have a room for you too.
okay. We don't need no stinking room. Okay, so let's not, we're gonna pass over this one. We're gonna vote Article 4 when we have all the correct information at town meeting. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
All right. All right, what do we got passed over? Article number 7. All right. Okay, I move Article 7 as written. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, Donnie beat you.
That's fine.
This looks like this is an annual article that to support the Marshfield Community Media, right? Is that correct, Michael?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. So the money to run PEG Access, which is your public education and government channel, comes off of people's bills. The money's then sent to the town, goes into the town's revenue source, and then we appropriate from that account to the PEG Access. And we need a town meeting vote to approve the transfer of the funds.
Gotcha. All right, any further discussion on Article 7? Seeing none, all those in favor say, signify by saying aye. Tom, aye. Keith,
Aye.
Donnie,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Rick.
Aye.
Okay, now we're going to Article 17, which is on page 37 of the warrant. And this is a CPC article. I move Article 17 as written. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll say.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw Sherry in there. What the heck?
Oh, put Sherry in.
There you go. Okay, Michael, do you have information on this?
This is the standard 10% set aside for
Right.
historic preservation, open space, affordable housing, and this is also covers the administrative expense line.
So I looked at it, it was like 10, 10, 10, then 5. So administration is a 5%.
5%, correct.
Okay, gotcha. Any further discussion on Article 17? All right, seeing none, all signify by saying aye. Tom, aye. Keith,
Aye.
Donnie,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Rick.
Aye.
All right, we're moving. All right, we got number 18. Yeah, too bad Greg wasn't still on. I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know what to do with this article. I'm not sure we have enough information. On
I can jump in a little, Mr. Chairman. So
please.
there's a person, so the petitioner is Sarah Crowley. I believe her dad is the property owner. This is the property directly across the street from the Brant Rock Supermarket.
Right.
And they want to put a microbrewery, farmers brewery in there. They produce their own beer. And I don't think people are opposed to it. I thought planning had written something up on it.
Yeah, so Mark Ford sent me some things, and they apparently they have a place in Kingston.
Yes.
And so they've got, Chamber of Commerce. So, but is it confusing as to whether they're actually trying to brew it there or actually just have their beer come
Hello?
in? Oh, Keith, you're on, you're not muted, Keith. Anyway, does that sound right to you, Mark?
Yeah, I didn't look at, they sent me the material and it seems like in that district as it is right now, like micro brewing is not permitted and they want to make it permitted, right? So I think that's what they want to do. I think they want to brew it on site, just like they do in the other location. The only question I had is whether I definitely wanted Greg or the planning board to weigh in, and also whether it should be by special permit versus just automatically permitted as of right. So I sort of agree. I don't have all that information. I wonder if this is something we can put off until
Let's
next.
let's
And
see.
then-
We're already voting on one thing, so we can vote on this. And I read the package, that you gave me, and it looks looks fine. But I
Yeah, I mean,
just
I'm
don't
sorry.
know.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think we're in the same boat, right? We just don't know what they're just serving it there or actually making it there.
I have a question
Yeah. Go ahead.
to Michael. Is this have to be a special license or is the town just able to give it since it's beer?
It would be, I believe it falls under Farmers Brewery license.
Okay, so they're available then.
Yes, there's no limitation on those.
Okay, that's all I cared about.
Okay, and then, but there's like the Board of Health involved and things like that, correct? Because you're making things, all right?
Yes,
like a much bigger process than just like, okay, we got the planning board's okay, we're all
this
set.
would be like, I'm not a beer drinker, but this is, Mike Snowdale has his place down on the Veraki property. He's a farmer brewery.
Okay, all right. Well, let's pass this one over and we'll vote on this at the before the town meeting.
yeah, I think we should. I mean, I'm happy to do it. Reach out to Greg and get his feedback on
Yeah,
whether he's.
I'll shoot him an email. And then Article 19, Article 18 pass over. Okay, I move to defeat Article 19. Do I have a second?
Second,
All right, and so there is a law in Massachusetts that allows for public access, and I think it's good for people to have to weigh their opinion at a selectmen's meeting. And talking to Michael, the town can't force an executive branch what to do. So I think, and I don't go to a lot of selectmen's meeting, I'll be totally honest with you, but I mean, I think there's there is a time where people talk about what's before them, and I think they just have a chance to shut that off. So I'm not against people, voicing their opinion on matters. I think it's sort of a separation of what we can ask the executive branch to do. Is that correct, Michael?
That is correct, Tom, Mr. Chairman. So what this does is doesn't take away from public hearing. As you know, the select board has a number of issues that are referred to as public hearings. We have poll hearings, liquor licenses, change of licenses. Those require public hearings. Dogs are public hearings. No way does it affect that. What this petition is trying to do is she's trying to have the legislative branch of government force the select board to have, it's called open mic. Cities and towns, residents come in and say whatever they want about the board that they're before. It's 10 minutes. The elected officials are not able to respond, and people say anything that's on their mind. So that's this article, according to the moderator and town council, also has dubious legality. It's not a legal article.
Great, thank you. Do we have any further discussion on Article 19?
So that's the problem with it, Michael, is that it's not legal?
That's correct.
Okay.
Can't force the executive branch. Legislative branch can't dictate how the executive branch runs themselves.
Got it.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree with that. Whatever the merits of the article, I actually don't think the advisory board should recommend a town meeting article that dictates how the select board runs its meetings. They're elected officials anyways, and if there's pressure on them to change their processes, that's how it should work.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor of defeating Article 19, excuse me, 19, signify by saying aye. Tom, aye. Keith,
All right,
Donnie,
Aye.
Sherry,
Hi,
Mark,
Aye.
Rick.
Aye.
All right, that's all I have. I'm thinking Mark's not on camera because he's got like one of those coconut drinks with like the big star and stuff like that. Is just
I might also have Mickey ears. It's not a good scene.
Well, enjoy.
But I appreciate it.
I do believe I have to take a roll to adjourn, so I call it to adjourn the meeting at 7:25. Signify by saying yes to adjourn. Tom, yes. Keith,
yes.
Donnie,
Yes.
Sherry,
yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Rick.
Yes.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it, ladies.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Guys, have a
very
great
much.
night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.